Now that we have learned to move in the viewport, to rotate, to pan, to zoom, and to center on the object, we will now focus on the rest. So we are going to take a quick look at what is right here, just above the viewport. So here we have the camera, and by selecting the camera, we select the main camera. We are using a perspective camera here, which is the main camera. Speaking of the camera, if you press space while the mouse is over the viewport, you instantly gain access to other views. We have access to the top view, which is from above, the front view, which is in front of the object, and the side view, which is from the side. So these views are really interesting. Our viewport is divided into 4 sections, and to reset it, as we want, we need to place the mouse over the desired view and press the spacebar again. This brings us back to perspective. If we press the spacebar again while the mouse is over the top view, we can switch to the top view. The same can be done for the front view and the side view. As I was saying, these views are very interesting because they allow us to have a really precise angle of view. The side view is extremely useful when we want to make highly specific modifications to our model that is perfectly from the side. And it can be particularly interesting for the model if we want to make modifications on the top view. Of course, you will see that this will really help us. So we looked at the camera. We can lock the camera we are on. So in perspective, if I lock the camera, then I can no longer zoom, I can no longer rotate, I can no longer pan. I can't do anything. It's hell. But if I deactivate it, bam. In fact, it's simply this. It will allow us, when we have a view that we really like, especially later when we want to render, or when we want to render an image or an animated camera, if we don't want to move it. If we find that this angle of view is absolutely beautiful, we just press on it and voila, it locks it for us. That way there's no risk. But since we're navigating in our viewport, we don't want to lock it. Next, here are the camera settings, which we are not interested in for the moment, all of that. We skip it, we don't care. The grid is this grid here that I mentioned earlier, which we can activate or deactivate. I recommend keeping it activated because it really gives us a scale. On our viewport, we can see where we are, and it ultimately serves as the ground. It's better because when we are like this, it's a bit more streamlined, but it's a little less useful, and we risk getting a bit lost in our 3-dimensional space. I recommend keeping this activated. For the rest, we are mostly dealing with things that are generally related to framing, so we won't really find it particularly useful. This will be more for the renders. Here, we will be able to see the wireframe of our object. So we will come back to the wireframe because it is very, very important. But if you want, I will delete my little cube and I will add another object, which is the sphere. The sphere that we can see like this. And so if we basically activate the wireframe, we can essentially see all its edges. So similarly, we will come back to this regarding the edges. Don't worry. But just know here that it acts like a sort of X-ray, if you will, like an X-ray that allows us to see only the edges and not the faces. And we have the same thing here, which allows us to combine this, and this gives us this. Very useful. It's nice. It lets us know where we are in terms of modeling, and keep an eye on our wireframe and topology. It's really interesting. We don't need the rest. However, here, you probably have it disabled, and I recommend enabling it, because if you look closely, we have something that is a bit clipped, a little pixelated. And if I enable anti-aliasing, then we have something that is much more pleasant to the eyes. Honestly, it's worth keeping. It's nicer. Here we have what essentially allows us to effectively and precisely isolate our object. So let's just say I have 2 spheres, and I keep that. I want to visualize only that one in my viewport. I select it, In fact, we can select objects like that just by clicking on them. And there I activate isolate select, and bam, everything disappears. Well, not everything disappears, of course. Nothing is deleted. The other objects, as well as the lights, and everything else in the scene will be hidden. To be hidden. But of course they are still present. Still present. And still there. It's just that from a visual perspective we can't see them. And we can't select them. We can't do anything. But if I deselect, it's there. It's there. Everything is fine. There is no problem. And for everything else, we're not going to deal with that right now. It's not very important. We can have the X-ray, which can still be nice. So this essentially functions similarly to an X-ray machine. Because compared to here, we can't see the kind of texture at all, if you will. Sorry for that. It's about the shading. While with X-ray we can see a little bit, it serves as transparency if you want. A pseudo-transparency. Well, if you want to activate it, we can activate it, but I prefer to leave it deactivated. Let's keep it simple on that. In fact, I often use either this way, to have an overall view of my object, or that one, which is really nice and will be very balanced. So, that's about it for these icons here. Just a quick overview of the cameras that I explained to you earlier. If you ever want to create a camera, you can navigate to get a view that you like, and then click on View to create a camera from View. At this point, you may not realize it, but Perspective 1 is indeed activated, and you can see in the outliner, which we will return to later, that there is a new camera that has been created. So if we right-click on this icon here, we can also select all the cameras. So you can do that with the space, but here you see that it is still limited to 4 cameras. Whereas here we have all the cameras that exist in the scene. So we have, let's say I move like this, bam, this is Perspective 1. I switch to Perspective, and you see, hop, it appears right here. Here it is. This is our new camera that we created. So since I am in Perspective now, hop, I have, so I can see the other camera, and if I switch back to Perspective 1, there you go. So it's normal that we don't see the perspective without the 1 because it is hidden, it is concealed, and this is intentional. It's like that in all the scenes. There you go. That's just about it for the viewport, simply.